we go now to our guy down in Portland, Oregon. He's the one and only Johnny Cans. John Canzano joins us every single week, brought to you by Zeke's Pizza. Follow him on social media, John Canzano, BFT, Bald Face Truth Radio in Portland, Oregon, host down there at 750 The Game. And, of course, johncanzano.com. How are you?
I'm doing well. How you doing, man? What people got you down? People disagreeing? People aren't getting along on social media? What's going on out there?
I just don't, someone, you get this little viral clip and someone takes 5 seconds out of a viral clip and it's, now we got to resort to, name calling of, well, it's just so stupid rather than just saying, I disagree with that, but okay. That's their opinion. Well, let's move on.
Yeah. The attention span of the public has been shortened. Like we're like a bunch of gnats. So all you can do is take a 5 or 7 second thing or 30 seconds at most. We can't have a conversation anymore. And then we all want to react like we know the person's entire position. But that's social media. I kind of wonder, like, we're on social media right now, Puck. So I think we have a duty and an obligation to give people a deeper dive and a more intelligent, thoughtful, thorough experience.
Yeah. It's because it's not like I dislike Twitter and social media in general. I like it. I think it's fun. Yeah. There's a lot of funny ass people out on social media that I get a good chuckle out of. That I go, that's really creative. That's funny. And I love the engagement, especially with sports. Yeah. I mean, it's the aggregate sourcing of sports news that I get from Twitter. It's great. Yeah. Without it, I really couldn't do my job. I mean, there's so much information there, and I don't go into the deep dive of the vitriol that social media has. I tried to avoid years ago, stop engaging with people that simply just wanted to argue and I had to stop.
Do you block people? Are you a blocker?
I was, and then I stopped doing it. I may have some people blocked. I'll mute them. I like the mute feature.
Mute is effective because they're just shouting into an abyss after that. They don't even know that you can't see them or hear them. But I do block if you have been especially, aggressive or out there. I will block you. But once a year I go in, Puck, and I call it Amnesty Day. And I set them all free. I just set them all free. It's like you're opening the gates of the maximum security prison on social media, and you just let them run out of the gates. And usually some of them get blocked immediately, but I get some others who reach out to me and send me a note and go, "Hey, I was kind of a jackass. Yeah. Thank you for unblocking me."
Hey, we all make mistakes. Yeah. It happens. There's nothing wrong with it. Well, it's a perfect segue into this was just a fascinating article that you wrote at johncanzano.com. In fact, I was just thinking about this because I was scrolling through my television the other night, and I just wanted to watch some highlights, and I flipped over to ESPN.
Yeah,
and there was no highlights of anything. And it was just they're doing their 50 states and 50 days thing. And then it was, we're going to yell about the quarterback situation with the Cowboys again. And I'm like, what happened to this network?
Yeah.
So, because you want to know, MLB Network, for some reason, I usually watch Quick Pitch every night. Are you aware of what Quick Pitch is?
I've seen it.
Yeah. All right. So I usually watch it. It wasn't on for some reason. So I was like, well, I want to watch baseball highlights, and I'll go to SportsCenter. They don't show any baseball highlights. I think they showed one in the time I was watching. It was a Yankees game. But it was more of these features and then this discussing Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
And I was like, what happened to this channel that used to be my number one stop? Every single day was ESPN. And you wrote about that this week. And you brought up some just great points about where the network is now and perhaps where is it going in the future?
Well, if you look back, it's founded in 1979, and this guy named Bill Rasmussen founds ESPN because he got fired, by the way. He was a play-by-play broadcaster of this team that was playing in Hartford, Connecticut, and the Whalers, and he also liked UConn. And so he approached RCA, which had one of the first satellite transponders that were out there 23,000 feet above Earth, hovering over Hawaii. And he approaches RCA and says, "Hey, I want to broadcast Whalers games and Yukon games. Can I buy some satellite time? And they said, you can get the whole country for about $1 million. And so his wheels got turning and he thought, I don't have $1 million, but that would be a really good idea, an all sports network. And so he approached Getty Oil, and they did have the $1 million. And he said, look, I'll give you 85% of the company. They did. They took on some other investors. So Rasmussen eventually, by the way, he got forced out of the company 4 days into after it was incorporated. But ESPN is launched in 1979. Colorado and Oregon play the very first football game. They had karate on. They had softball games on. They had, everything, weightlifting. They used to put on people doing exercise classes. They were just filling time on ESPN, but it eventually got into a kind of a sweet spot with Outside the Lines and Sports Center and the college game day shows. I loved ESPN like I loved MTV. But we all know what happened to MTV. The same damn thing happened. Corporate America got a hold of it. ABC bought ESPN. Then Disney got ESPN. And ESPN looks nothing like what it used to look like. And now it has turned into this propaganda machine that, you're right, sits around and says, okay, what are the major brands? The Dallas Cowboys, the Patriots, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Dodgers. Okay, what are the big markets? New York, LA, Chicago, Boston. And by the way, which properties do we own? The SEC. We've got broadcast rights in the SEC, the NFL. And they just shovel coal, and they shovel us these Caitlin Clark hysteria and Jeremy Lin hysteria and Tim Tebow. And what does Bronny James think about Luka's contract? Who cares about what Bronny James thinks about what Luka's contract? Nobody cares about that, except they know, hey, that moves the needle because we're now programming to the lowest common denominator. They're not giving you highlights, Puck. They're giving you arguments. They're giving you shouting matches. They're giving you shoulder programming that is propaganda. They are owning more and more of the events. They own a number of college football bowl games. I think at one point they had 17 or more. They're now in cahoots with the NFL, 10% stake in ESPN, this new deal that's coming out. How are they going to cover the NFL? They're not. They're just going to tell us how great the NFL is and how much you need to watch the games when they're on ESPN because they have the best games, and how great the SEC is. It is a shadow of what it used to be. It's sad to me. MTV and ESPN walking hand in hand in this one, but there has been a downfall. There's been an ESPNification of the sports ecosystem, and it makes stuff like what you're doing here, like a deep dive and a real conversation, really stand out because it's the stuff that really matters, and it's the stuff people should be paying attention to, but instead they're just getting propaganda.
But they wouldn't do it if people didn't want it, though. That's what I guess, that there has to be a good portion of people that enjoy watching Stephen A. Smith yell into a camera, right? There has to be, right? They have to have
some of that. But you can get away with that. Like, look, I've sat on a bus next to Stephen A. Smith. He's not the guy he is on TV, nor is Skip Bayless. I worked with Skip Bayless. And one time I ran into Dick Vitale at a NCAA tournament. I was at the soda machine, and here's Dickie V, and I thought he was going to be like, hey, it's a diaper dandy, baby. What are you doing? No, he was just like, Dick, hey, how you doing? We had a normal conversation, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. These guys are acting on TV. Okay, I get that. I understand that, and there's a place for that. There's always been a place on television for entertainment, but you can't just be about the entertainment and the propaganda. The stuff that balanced it for me over the years was like Outside the Lines, College Game Day, Tom Rinaldi's great pieces, great reporting. It was a must watch on Saturdays, on a college football Saturday. Now it's a shirtless Pat McAfee arm wrestling somebody riding it on a Harley. Like, it's jumped the shark, to steal a Fonzie in Happy Days phrase, And here's the thing, and you're right, they are programming to the lowest common denominator. They are after a young demo, men age 25 to 54. I would even say they're going 18 to 34 on the demo because they want to grow with it, and they want young viewers who are into that kind of stuff. And so maybe it's like me walking around the mall going, they don't have a store for me anymore. Like, what happened to my store? It used to be Pacific Sunwear. Maybe it was a Borders or a Barnes and Noble. What happened to my store, Puck? There's nothing for me there anymore.
What's the one with all the gadgets? Was that Spencer's? Was that the one that had all like the
I know what you're talking about.
Gadgets right at the mall?
I know what you're talking about.
It was Spencer's, and then I'm going to go get a Cinnabon and then Sbarro pizza.
You could go in and fly like a mini helicopter in that gadget store.
Yeah, they had like cool chairs you could sit in, and well, it just I don't. The entertainment factor from the personalities, I understand. I mean, the E in it stands for entertainment.
Sure.
I guess it's just the same old tired programming every single day of just shoveling the same topics over every different platform. And I think the mistake that they have made. So you tune on and you're just recycling the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, it's LeBron though. LeBron is like,
sure.
Look, and ESPN's not alone. Fox does it too. And I've been on the FS1 shows. I did a show one time. Andy Roddick was on the panel. Gabe Kapler was on the panel. And I was in the pre-production meetings on the Fox studio lot. It was summertime. They said, let's bring radio guys in and have them sit in on the panel. And I'm in this pre-production meeting. And it's like, you could go down the line, Puck. It's like, hey, we got to talk about LeBron. What can we say about LeBron? Is he a failed leader? Is it? And I'm like, why are we talking about this? Like, we shouldn't be setting the narrative. You should be reacting to what is actually happening in sports. And so I can guarantee you, if you go to ESPN.com this week, you're going to see LeBron, Luka, the Knicks, the Cowboys, the Patriots. They are funneling their programming and their news content towards the major markets. They are after eyeballs and clicks. And I get that. And you can do that. You can give me photos of the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, or here are the 10 best tattoos in the NBA. You can give me that, but you have to give me the deeper dives. You have to give me the smart stuff, the investigative reporting. And I don't know right now if I trust ESPN to cover the SEC or the NFL with any kind of objectivity, because they're in business with these entities.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, what just happened? I remember when ESPN, with SportsCenter, they shifted away from showing highlights. It became features, and it became, stories, and it got away from showing the highlights. And I remember then that's when ESPN News came around. Fact is, do we still have ESPN News, by the way?
I don't even know.
Is it still around?
ESPN's not for me. Like Auntie Annie's pretzels, where have you gone? Like it's just not for me. There's nothing for me in the mall.
What about a Mrs. Fields cookie?
Yeah, I'll take a cookie.
That's for, of course, yeah.
Sharper Image was the story.
Sharper Image, yeah. I would go to Sharper Image and then maybe swing by Orange Julius.
Yes. Orange Julius.
So, but ESPN News used to have, and it would recycle 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Highlights. That's all I care about. That's why I love Quick Pitch. That and Abby Labar, who's the host of it. But anyways, that's
what happened? You know what happened?
I just want highlights. Yeah. That's all I want. I don't want the other stuff.
But you know what happened? Your phone happened. And ESPN said, hey, Puck's got his phone. He can get the highlights anytime he wants. We've got to give him something else. We've got to give him, hey, and what do people respond to? It's reality television. It's the staged argument between two personalities on ESPN. I'll tell you, the show I do like is the Scott Van Pelt show that he does late at night, kind of the summary wrap-up show that was Stanford Steve. It's probably the only thing anymore that I really look at on ESPN and go, okay, I enjoy this.
Because it's different than everything else.
Yeah.
It's different. It's in a way kind of what we do. It's more of a talk show in a way.
Yep.
That's how he does it. So I enjoy that. Now he takes this like summer break, so he's off, but that kind of is the last thing. But it got me thinking, because I think there's another program that I now am pivoting away from. Now it's kind of the same reasons, but not exactly like ESPN. But I flipped on, and I've been watching this for years. Not just an old man thing. I've been watching this since I was like 8 with my dad. It was like we would always watch 60 Minutes. Always. I've grown up on 60 Minutes, watched it my entire life. But this latest fiasco with 60 Minutes and with Paramount and everything, I turned it on this past Sunday, and Leslie Stahl, who's one of their fabulous reporters, is on there. She's doing a story, I think, on women's fertility. And I'm thinking to her, I'm like, and I saw the rundown of the stories they were doing. None of them were pointed at the government. None of them were at the president. Now, yeah, and again, I'm not trying to make this political. The point is 60 Minutes was a watchdog of government. They're not going to be that anymore.
No.
That's over.
Yeah.
And so that program has lost all credibility. To your point with ESPN, how will they cover the SEC? How are they going to cover the NFL? Oh, they're not. Not if there's something pivotal. Now, if there's something important to report on, because they have now been owned by these big corporations who are in bed with even bigger entities now.
Yeah. Well, turn on the 60 Minutes. You know, the head of 60 Minutes walked away, said I can't do the show the way that they want me to do the show. And I think that's obviously a huge red flag, like, you know, sirens blaring. MTV's gone. ESPN is dead. 60 Minutes is going there too. So it does, I think, put it back on, you know, journalists and talk show hosts who want to take those deeper dives, who want to take people behind the scenes and show people what's really going on. Because when you flip on ESPN and you watch the college football playoff reveal of the rankings show every week, you're getting the talking heads at ESPN telling you how great the SEC is and how none of the other teams in the country can stand with these teams. And they're really shaping and fashioning their narratives around their partners and their upcoming matchups that they're going to carry on TV, because they're trying to foster, you know, a bunch of interest in that. It's not right. You know, I think the viewers probably see through it, but the glow of that ESPN shoulder programming is a powerful thing. The SEC is good at the top of that conference. They're great historically. So is the Big Ten. But we both know when you turn on Fox and you turn on ESPN, you are getting propaganda.
Yeah. I don't know. Can it get any better?
I think that there has to be some pushback. But I understand what ESPN's doing and what the NFL is doing. The NFL has given ESPN 7 more games. They're giving them the red zone. They're giving them their fantasy football operation. In exchange, they're getting a 10% stake in the network. That's worth billions of dollars, Puck. You can't tell me that, you know, me turning my TV off is not going to move the needle for them when they know, hey, we're getting billions of dollars. And by the way, we're getting favorable coverage, people telling the league how great they are. I'll tell you one thing I did like. Adam Silver came out this last season, the NBA commissioner, and he said that he felt that the coverage of his league was turning into gossip. And, you know, you had the former First Lady, Michelle Obama. She said Stephen A. Smith's show sounds like the Real Housewives, like they're just gossiping. And I thought that was interesting to hear people sort of pointing it out, because, yeah, it has become less about the actual games and more about who's doing what on Twitter and who has thin skin and, oh, look at who has rabbit ears and Kevin Durant said what and who's asking for a trade. It is all the drama. I think the more that people can get back to talking about and thinking about what actually is going on, the better off the ecosystem is.
It's crazy. The entertainment side of it. You know, now we've got reporters on some of these sports shows where they are. I mean, Ryan Clark does it on ESPN, where they judge what the players are wearing walking into the stadium.
Yeah,
I'm like, what the F are we doing?
Yeah.
I don't care what they wear.
Right.
Like, but again, I'm probably a minority because someone probably does, and they eat that up.
Yeah, you're not in Hot Topic at the mall, but somebody in Hot Topic would be into that, and that's who they're after. And here's the other thing: like, it's not just TV. Newspapers are guilty of this as well. And I worked at 6 different newspapers. I saw sort of the erosion of the newsroom. My last newspaper, there were 68 people working in the sports department when I was hired, and there were 8 or 9 when I left. You know, I just stopped counting. It's, you know, and the reviews that you get working in a newspaper are often about engagement and clicks and unique readers and, hey, could you write shorter? Because, you know, that create, you know, post more frequently but shorter. And it's all about driving the metrics and not really about doing the real coverage. And, you know, it's why you left and you're doing what you're doing. It's why I left. I'm doing what I'm doing. But I hope there's someone coming behind us, Puck, who wants to do it on a deep level, because I'm certainly interested in reading that stuff and watching that stuff.
Okay, last thing for you. In your mailbag, you were asked a question and answered about beer sales at Washington State at Pullman. What do you know, Mr. Canzano?
Well, I talked to Ann McCoy, the AD at Washington State. She tells me that nothing is official yet. It does sound to me like Washington State is going to serve beer in public areas. 90% of the colleges do it. There are some concerns about, you need additional security, you need monitors, alcohol monitors, you need this to happen responsibly. But they've served beer and wine in the luxury suites and the club level at Martin Stadium. It looks like public areas are going to get beer as well, Puck. Okay. There's a lot of money in it. I looked at North Carolina. University of North Carolina did not serve beer in public areas prior to the pandemic. They were getting about $300,000 in revenue prior to the pandemic. After the pandemic, UNC started serving beer. They will generate more than $4 million in beer sales this football season. So there's about, are Washington State fans beer drinkers? There may be $3 or $4 million there that wasn't available before.
Jesus,
probably a profit, $6 beers at Autzen Stadium. I think you could expect to see that at Martin Stadium as well.
Okay. All right. JohnCanzano.com is the website. Listen to him on his radio show down there in Portland, Oregon on 750 The Game. He's with us here every single week. I always look forward to it. Great perspective as always, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, pal.